Greetings, everybody. If I look awkward, it's because I'm trying to catch the light. The lighting in here is really bad. This is another sponsored video, and as is our agreement, I'm not going to say your name. To anyone else who would like to sponsor a video, contact me at jennirren@gmail.com. That is JENNIRREN@gmail.com. Now, I want you to understand that usually when I speak on a topic, it's like one and move. I don't belabor the point because the idea is not to take advantage of anybody or anybody's situation. But in this case, folks, my email is flooded with messages. Keep in mind there's 10,000 persons who've watched the video so far, and a great percentage of that has reached out. For one, if they like gossip, they will find that I'm not about that life. So those who reach out who want to just gossip really doesn't have an audience. I'm not that type of person. For the rest who reach out because they can relate or because they're going through it too, yeah, you had my attention. And so the person who sponsored this is someone who is going through the same situation. So I don't want to put the family's name in the title because that would be throwing salt on the wound. Like, we have to let it go. We have to let these people go back to their privacy and deal with what they got to deal with. Enough said. But for all of us, men and women alike, we can continue the conversation so we're not looking at them or they. We're looking at ourselves and say, how can we be better? What can we do better? In this particular video, I'm going to talk about how do you know when God is speaking? And someone in the community post asked that question. That's not the person who sponsored this, but I think I can tie it with it. How do you know when it's time to go? What are the signs? What are the symbols to say this is it? You see, for many of us, if we only recognize the sign when it's time to go, we would save ourselves a lot of trouble, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. There's never going to be any ideal time. I'm going to share my own personal story. I remember I came to the point when I realized that my marriage was over and that I wasn't going to allow the church or any other persons to convince me that I should suffer, that I should stay in what was very toxic and a thing that was not going to bring about the best for my future or bring out the best in me. Guilt is a terrible thing. And when you're sponsored by somebody, when you come from Jamaica and you're sponsored, a lot of women and men endure a lot of disrespect, a lot of hardship, and they would never leave because they don't want to be accused of using somebody. The lady in question is saying, I love this man, but he's abusive, he's violent, he cheats, he does all kinds of terrible things to me, but because he brought me up from Jamaica, if I leave, you're going to hear that I used him. And so I am still staying 5 years later. So that's the story of the person who sponsored this video. And I'm going to say I can completely relate to this. Because the person sponsor you, you're going through domestic situations, life-threatening situations, and you're afraid to leave out of guilt. I was one of those persons. I felt like at first I can't leave. I'm not happy. And it was easier to go back home. And there was a time when I planned to return to Jamaica. But I was always convinced by this person, don't go, don't go, the honeymoon. Listen, some of us live for the honeymoon phase, and they're few and far between. But something about remembering the good times, we hold on to those things. And then the children. We stay because of the kids, but mostly out of guilt and mostly out of what other people are going to say. There's so many people dying because you're concerned about what other people are going to say. And these are the same ones. The same one that ask you to stay are the same ones who are going to say, why didn't you go? You're stupid. Lady, the story you shared with me was heartbreaking. And I completely get it. Someone who's not walking in your shoes will not understand that a lot of us stay out of fear, sometimes fear for our lives too, because we know this person doesn't have the ability to love us the way we deserve to be loved, but they don't want to see us go. I had to say to myself, I'd rather go and die than stay in that situation where the person kills me. And they don't have to just physically harm you, but mentally, you're going to suffer post-traumatic stress if you don't get out. You're already going through it, as a matter of fact. You say, if somebody comes up to you suddenly, you jump in a protective manner, like to protect your face. These things are traumatic. There's some other things that I want to say to the couple, but you have to be so careful because you can come across as being malicious. And it's not a message that I was sent to do. It's not a dream that I have to deliver. It's just a prevailing thought, a very sick feeling that when the person decides that this is over, it's going to get very, very ugly, very violent. And so we have to ward against that. In terms of how do I tell my children, you just tell them the truth. You tell them in a way, though, where you're able to maintain respect, where they can still respect the other partner, whether a man or a woman is going through this and they realize that they're at the end. They have made the decision that I can't do this anymore. You have to talk to the kids, but you have to talk to them in such a way that, you know, they understand this is their parent. You have to try to avoid bad mouthing the parent in front of the kids. So my girls are 32, 28. I never spoke bad about their father. Now that they're older, I might say things, but I never did when they were younger. Leaving that room for them to have a relationship. But for the people who love to say, oh, the kids, you have no idea. I can speak to that, and that's going to be the topic for another video. For all my new subscribers, some of you come, because you like what you heard in that video, but then you run away afterwards when you don't see all this type of topics. The idea is to bring balance, body, mind, and spirit. And I do intend to do some of these trending topics because it brings people, and where you have an audience, you can then deliver more than just the negativity. You can deliver some positive things. So a lot of persons have come here because of maybe a negative topic, but they stayed because they were fed spiritually, that is. I stayed, and it did more damage to the kids. How do you know when to go? The signs are always there. That feeling in your gut that something is not right. I heard that the young lady said that she just felt like something wasn't right. She was cross. Listen, the first sign when you're with somebody, when you're in a relationship, and the person, you just get angry, but just go cross against them, something is not right. Guess what it is? It's the spirit that this person is entangling with. That when they come in the space, your spirit, your guiding spirits are telling you that what they've brought with them. You see, people come into your household and they bring spirits in there with them. And certain acts, people always make sex seem like it is the biggest and the only sin. It is not, but it's a force that is so powerful that you can create when you're having sexual intercourse with somebody. If you both get to climax at the same time, anything you both wish for comes to pass. Listen, it's a secret that can be proven. If you both get to that peak at the same time and plan it and wish for something at the time, you both get to that place. It is very spiritual. The spirit shows up at that moment. So imagine someone who's messing around, now connected. This is why so many women, you know, you have these spiritual husbands that are stuck to you. You can't get rid of them. You're wondering why the relationship. Every relationship I enter, that is, it doesn't work out. It feels like it's the right thing. And all of a sudden, the person is gone. The person likes you a lot and doesn't even know why. They don't want to be with you anymore. This is why we can't look at this thing and say, well, everybody do it. It's not a big deal. It's a big deal. It's going to not just impact your life, it's going to impact your children as well. So when we go out and step out of our intimate situations and invite someone else in there, it becomes a triage, as they would say in the hospital. Sickness, bad energy. If we understand this, then we're going to be very careful about how we engage in extramarital affairs. I had the chance to leave a broken situation, and I left many times and went back. Of course, feeling like, oh no, if I go with another man, that's going to make me a bad person. That's not what I wanted for my life. I was a virgin when I got married. I just couldn't bear to think that another man is going to, you know, be all up in my patter cake. I remember saying to a church brother, that I had to stay in this situation because, what the scripture says about remarrying. I just couldn't bring myself to engage with anybody else within this 15 years, even though most of that time I was separated back and forth. And he said, well, he's not the only one that has an appendage. He says, you can meet someone else and get married. What he was saying to me is, don't listen to these people in the church. They're talking nonsense. I suffered trauma. I had problems with trust. Even today, I still have trust issues. It's a little better now, but I have problems. I had problems and have problems with trust. And there is this fire that's in my belly. I say to myself, why did you allow yourself to endure all of this? And when I was thinking I was protecting my kids, I wasn't. One of my kids suffered from mental illness. That in itself is heartbreaking. And I thought she saw nothing in terms of the physical. But then she remembers us living in fear. A lot of these men, they don't want to do better. But when you make up your mind, especially when they're used to wrapping you around their finger, and they see that you, because they always see you like this, you know, my ex always saw me as a virgin, even though we were married. They see you, you're virtuous. Whenever you decide to go, they're going to blame somebody else and say, it's that person's fault why you're gone. They never take responsibility for what they do. You see, people who are genuinely, sincerely sorry for bad things that they do to their partners, they'll never do it again. Let me tell you that. Anyone who repeats such an action where you see a partner cry and is in pain, emotional and physical pain, and do that again, that's not love. And while that person needs help as well, you can't allow some other person to destroy you, especially when you see they're self-involved. So, you got a decision to make. And it's never going to be easy. And I'm going to say this to you. When I said I'm going to separate and I'm just going to let this person have a relationship with his children, come to my house, I was hoping to do that. But these people will never accept it. This person will never accept that you've moved on or you're going to move on. And that's why sometimes violence come into play because, they take it for granted. And when you finally wake up and say, okay, no more, they get so angry. They don't love you, but they don't want to free you to love someone else. They're always worrying about, because they know your goodness. They're worried about the next person who's going to find you and be happy with you and love you. They're selfish. They can't do right by you, but they don't want someone else to make you happy. Again, I want to say to you, when it comes to married people, I will not say stay or go. I'll just say look at the pros and the cons. Write down reasons to stay, reasons to go. The list that's longer is the one that you go with. But you're praying about it too, and the signs are there. I'm not a Christian, people. I don't categorize myself as a religious person. But a lot of what you see in the Bible is true because it's history. It's written down by people's experiences. And the Spirit will speak to you through the Word. So for the person who asks, how do I know when God is talking? How do I recognize? First and foremost, when the Holy Spirit, I should say, is speaking to you, There's no doubt. There's no feeling of fear. There's no rage. You're not angry. It's a very still, silent voice. If it's in a dream, there's no face. There's no one physical beside you. You just know you're walking in the dream and someone is giving you instruction, talking to you. You can feel the presence, but you can't see anyone. You know that's God. Those are the messages that I deliver when I'm walking. I'm walking, and it's usually at night for some reason. I'm walking through the night in the streets, and I have a companion, but I don't see the companion, and the companion is telling me or showing me or teaching me. When I wake up from the dream, confirmation comes in either a phone call or something pops up on my phone or pops up on the TV screen. Or if I'm taking a shower, that's the place when I hear anywhere close to water where the download is. And I'll be in a shower, for example, and I walk out, and my husband says exactly what the Spirit said to me. So it confirms it with someone else. Trust your gut. If love does not hurt, it's a lie. Love doesn't hurt. People can have differences. People might even endure that one-off situation where someone stepped out of the marriage, and that marriage might be salvageable because it's a one-time thing and it never happens again. But I think for every time a situation that happens, one must be separated from each other physically to process things, to cleanse your aura and your space, your home. And it can't just be a one person, both persons have to. I'm going to say this before I end. In relationships, when the relationship ends with a woman, she's gone mentally before she's gone physically. For a man, he goes physically and then mentally. It's the opposite. I'm also going to say where kids are involved, kids look up to their fathers and their mothers. And anytime we invite other persons in that situation, we betray the children, not just ourselves. We betray the kids too. And my daughter, my second daughter, she's lived with us, since she was 10, apart from when she went away for university. If my partner ever went out and messed around, and she knows she'll never forgive him, she would never forgive him. So this is what men don't know. That young girl, the first child loves him like her dad. She'll never forgive him. Or she will not. Maybe she might forgive him, but she'll never forget. When that trust is broken, when that child see her mommy crying, good luck to him. So, to the person who sponsored this video, I'm going to say I'm very sorry that you're going through all that. But keep in mind, when the Holy Spirit is ready to do some things in your life, sometimes it starts with your relationship. And all the things we talked about, you've had signs upon signs upon signs. And you have to relinquish fear. Some years ago, here's what the Spirit said to me. I was only 17 years old. And I remember it like it was yesterday. The Spirit said to me, discontinue this relationship or it's going to lead to your destruction. Never forgot that. But I didn't understand like I do now. This is why we need spiritual guidance. We need people who understand these things. Help us interpret our dreams. Help us to figure out some things. I didn't understand. I didn't know anyone around me that was spiritual to go and say, what does this mean? And so, guess what happened to me? When the troubles came, I would separate because I always remember that voice. I would always say, that's it, I'm not doing this. I would separate temporarily, because I remember what he said. I kept saying, oh my gosh, does it mean that I should go? Discontinue the relationship before it leads to your destruction. This is a general call for anybody who find themselves going back and forth, whether you're a man or a woman who's having a situation with a person who is not just endangering your life, they're endangering their life too. Because it's not just about, physical things that you could get. It's the spiritual things. And let me tell you, that is difficult to get rid of. I'm a very spiritual person. I can see and feel and hear things that natural person cannot see and feel and hear. In Jamaica, does something I ask you? My nephew in Jamaica once called me and says, can you be my Obia woman? Because if anyone has a propensity to see and feel things, it's you. Yeah. Discontinue the relationship before it leads to your destruction. But sometimes you have to move. In your case, lady, you're going to have to make up your mind to move. Because as long as you're in the same city, it's going to be trouble. And I'm talking to the person who sponsored this video, so somebody doesn't get this twisted. You're going to have to start all over. Starting over was very, very difficult for me. I had to move to a different place, far away. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to upset my life, leave my job. The kids had to be out of daycare, starting all over. But I had no choice, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be alive today. I would be dead. Because when these narcissists find out that you're choosing you, they will get violent. Sounds like you made up your mind. You're gonna have to move. Thanks for watching, everybody. Reach out if you want to sponsor the next topic. And I will also go back through the community posts to pick some more. I think I barely touched on 2 of those topics, but I'll do more detail. I think there's one asking about spiritual partners. I'll get into more detail on that topic. Stay blessed, everyone.